So hello everyone. Hello also people who are still dancing. Thanks for coming today. We're very excited to be together as always. And I would like to warn that we will be recording this event, so I would like to inform you all in case anyone is uncomfortable with that or doesn't want to appear in the recording. You can always reach us if you have any concerns. You can find the chat in the bottom right corner, where we will be posting some links and info and also some fun nonsense probably. Please feel free to use it. I am Sinem, the events lead of AIxDesign, an independent organization and a community of geeky designers, creative techies, and curious minds who are exploring the intersection of design, AI, ML, and data. Before starting the event, we would like you to get familiar with Gather and take a moment to celebrate this gathering. You will notice that you will be able to move around by using your arrow keys, and but there are even more fun functions that you can try. For example, if you press Z, you can start dancing, and the stage can become a small disco, basically. Encourage everyone to do that. And if you press F, basically, you can also throw some confetti to celebrate this moment. Enjoy. And I'm also typing these comments in the chat as well, in case anybody missed it. Great. So you can also customize your look from the bottom left corner next to your video. If you click on the little pen there and then pick change character option. And since the theme of today's talk is body and we have this small disco, we would like you to put your best clubbing outfit and change your hair color based on your mood as well. So if you're saying, let me put this in the chat as well. If you're saying, this is the greatest disco ever, please make your hair pink. If you're saying, I mean, just whatever, make your hair purple. If you're saying, I really need to go get wasted for real, please make your hair green. And if you're saying, I am a rock star and no one can dictate me a dress code, please make your hair whatever color you want. So you will notice that you will be able to interact, talk, and see each other when you walk towards someone. If your cameras and microphones are on, of course, or if you're in the same space. To make everyone hear you when you want to ask a question or talk or share something, please raise your hand from the button next to the camera button, the bottom left corner. Then we will spotlight you so everyone can hear you. Let me put this in the chat as well. And today we will be hosting YASMIN for the behind the scenes artist talk, navigating self and the body on the internet, as part of our AI Playground program led by Ambika, aka Computational Mama. Hello, Maya and Ambika.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. To introduce Maya quickly, I would like to say YASMIN is an artist, programmer, and choreographer. Her work considers the computer screen a space for intimacy and performance, focusing on the phenomenon of translating our offline selves into on-screen content. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Computer Science and Media Studies from Pomona College, and she's currently pursuing an MFA in Media Art at UCLA in Los Angeles, California. Welcome again, glad to be having you. And I will also chat where you can find Maya's work. I will also put in the chat where you can find Maya's work. Yeah. You can see her work on Maya on the inter.net and also on Instagram. And also our dear program lead, Ambika's work, I am putting in the chat. You can find Ambika's work. And Ambika will be also giving us a workshop soon. So please keep an eye on our socials. This workshop is the 6th event of the AI Playground program, led by Ambika and funded by Stimulating Phone's creative industry. And it is part of the body team among 4 main teams we have been having: image, moving image, music, sound, body poses, and text words. Under each team, we are hosting one behind-the-scenes artist talk, like today's talk, and one workshop like we will be having on the 6th of September with Ambika. And you can follow our social channels and have an eye on our Eventbrite page for the other talks as well and events that we will be having as part of this program or other programs during the year. I am also leaving some links in the chat for all you who would like to learn more about the upcoming events and programs. Also, uh, before starting the talk, I would like to also introduce that we will make explorations and learnings of each AI playground topic accessible to the wider community with a public guide. And our first guide is already published on the theme of image, AI generated images. And you can see it through our website, which we also share some insights from on our social channels lately. Each guide contains an introduction to each discipline, inspiration projects, and creative suggestions for how the viewer can expand the subject further. So to see our image guide, please go to our website or go to the link I'm putting in the chat. And I would like to say that the event participants, like today's event, will have the chance to provide suggestions on what they would like to see in the guide as well. And additionally, there will be an online graduation show we're planning later in the year, where all the program participants will have the chance to display the work they developed in those sessions or inspired by the talks. More details will be announced on the respective Slack channels, and you will be receiving a mail on how to join the Slack space shortly after the talk today, if you're not already there. And please do not hesitate to ping me privately if you would like to contribute to the guide or graduation show in any way. To join the Slack channel, I'm again posting a link in the chat. Great. So before starting with Maya's talk again, we have one more thing. So we would like this space to be as much as interactive as it can be, and we would like to warm up a little before listening to the Maya's great talk. And we will be having a little experiment with Yasmin, who is our AI tooling lead, and we will warm up a little bit with Yasmin.
Awesome.
Yasmin,
thanks.
hi.
Hey, thanks, Sinem. And firstly, hey, everyone. I'm part of the
Yasmin?
AI tooling project. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
All right, cool. So I'm Yasmin, part of the AI tooling project with AIxDesign, where we experiment with pre-made and custom AI tools. And I'm super excited for this talk. And for this, I decided we'd do a really quick activity and see whether we can come together and try to make a tune using POSENET. So I've adapted a sketch from Gene Kogan that uses the ML5JS POSENET and the P5 sound library. So the first thing we guys got to do is we got to walk together so we're in a big group so we can hear each other. So you know where the shaved ice cream truck is? If we could all kind of come together, so the people that want to maybe unmute themselves, essentially, I'm now going to share the sketch onto the chat. So, and I'll also share my screen so you can kind of take a look. So what's happening here is when you press play, and it might be really loud in the beginning, but I'm gonna lower the volume here. So this is an adaptation from a sketch. And what you can do is you can change the notes here. And you can also change the volume. So what I'd really love is if you guys feel comfortable to unmute yourself and play around with this for maybe a couple minutes, and let's see whether anything interesting happens. You can also use the up and down arrows to increase the wetness of the reverb. So that's something that kind of adds a bit of difference. You can try that.
Also, if you all want to look like fools together, you can turn on your cameras.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming together and playing around with this sketch that I made. I hope you guys had a bit of fun trying that out. And I want to say, feel free to duplicate this sketch and make your own version. I have so many ideas for this, and I want to share with you another good place to learn about sound synthesis in P5 if you're interested. And this will probably kind of come back because we are also going to have a sound part of AI Playground. But for now, I'm going to share with you a page that's really good for trying to analyze sound with P5. And it would be awesome if maybe somebody here has an idea for how you could actually change the way the key points look, and maybe kind of, instead of just seeing our face and key points, maybe they could kind of go increase or decrease or do something crazy. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll hand it back over to Sinem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. That was fun. Thank you for the brilliant warm up. So now I would like to leave the stage to Maya if you're already very warm, and for the exciting talk. Welcome again, Maya. The stage is yours.
Hi. I'm going to share my screen so you can all see. Okay. Does this look? You can see? Okay,
Yep.
cool. Cool. So I'm happy to be here. I'm Maya, and today I'm going to be talking about navigating self and the body on the internet. But I thought I should start with my kind of first introduction to making any kind of like self-made media, which for me was really, when I think back, sticks in my mind as me like in middle school on my kitchen computer using photo booth. And from a very young age, this is kind of like my exposure to digital tools and how I started becoming interested in the ways that I can manipulate the way that I look on screen with the tools that I had in front of me. I also used to take a lot of flip video camera videos and make little music videos with my friends. But around this time, I was also a dancer. And so growing up, I spent a lot of time in the studio. And I kind of was in this like competition dance group, and we would go locally and compete in these like rhinestoney outfits and everything. But all of this is to say that I spent a lot of time thinking about movement and performance and my body on stage, and also in the studio, constantly looking in a mirror and thinking about how you're able to control how you look when you're performing. And so all of this was kind of my background growing up. And when I went to college, I thought, okay, I don't think I want to do dance full time and become a professional dancer, but I was really interested in math and science, and I had been introduced to a coding course right before I went to college, and I loved it. I loved the power that web development gave me, and so I decided to study computer science in college. And this is a picture of me at school on the floor doing my algorithms homework. But for a long time, I was studying computer science, and I also was into dance. But I didn't really see those things as being connected at all. They were very much two separate interests I had in my life. But when I was after my first year of college, I met some people who were part of the P5JS community. And I actually went to the first P5 conference in 2015 in Pittsburgh. And I met all of these people who were not only technical and understood code and cared about code, but at the same time were also artists and educators and designers. And that totally changed my idea of what was possible to do with code. Because growing up, I always thought that artists were people who were really good at drawing. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. And so meeting this community, specifically the P5JS processing community, totally opened my world and gave me the chance to start thinking about what type of projects I would want to make that were code based and what I could uniquely bring to a project that I worked on. So soon after that, I started experimenting in processing and making some prototypes of me using processing and OpenCV, which is a computer vision library, and a Connect camera at the time, which does depth sensing, to start experimenting with what it would look like for me to take my own movement and then be able to manipulate that movement on screen in some way. And so this is from one of my earliest works. I would call more of an experiment, but it's called Be a Body, and it was me thinking of dance as a form of human music visualization, and then wondering how I could overlay graphic music visualization that I was doing programmatically through processing. And so this marked one of my earliest experiments combining dance and code. And it was really exciting for me to realize that there was the possibility of me combining these things that I loved that before I thought existed completely separately in my mind. And so here's another one. And overall, I made about 7 of these different visualizations, just experimenting with what it looks like to grab my movement at one point and then hold it in one place, or repeat it all over the screen. And then around the same time, I was also thinking about, I was taking a typography class, and in school I used to try to, there was no one who was teaching like a code-based artwork class or media artwork class. And so I would usually take, this was a typography assignment, I would take that and try to turn it into something that that gave me the opportunity to experiment with what I was interested in. And so this was a typography assignment that I made in processing with 2 of my friends who were dancers, and then again used that computer vision strategy. And so after I graduated from school, I was interested in working somewhere that would give me the opportunity to exercise my kind of concept idea part of my brain while also working as a programmer. And there were very few places that I could see in industry that let you kind of do both of those things simultaneously. But there was this place called the Google Creative Lab. And I ended up emailing a bunch of people who worked there, and one person responded to me. And long story short is I ended up interning there right before I graduated, and then I worked there right after I left school. And my favorite project that I worked on while I was there was something that used POSENET, which we were just using. And this is a project where the Creative Lab collaborated with Bill T. Jones, who is a huge pioneer of modern dance. So I want to share a little bit about this project. So the project is called Body Movement Language AI Sketches with Bill T. Jones. And with this project, we wanted to see how we could introduce Bill and his team to POSENET, the machine learning model, and then see how he might be interested in using it. And so at the beginning, I kind of brought all of these experiments that were really colorful and flashy and like the skeleton moving around the screen. And Bill reacted in a way where he was really like, I can't see the dancer in this. I can't understand what they're doing. I don't feel like they're able to tell their story through these kind of like, he was like their kind of screensavery sketches. And that moment for me was really important because I realized that even though the sort of technologist part of my brain wanted to push the technology to its limits and show everything that it could do, as an artist, it's really important to be able to say what you want to say with restraint and with care. And so I really appreciated that where we ended up for this project was somewhere that used POSENET lightly, but I think in a way that was much more meaningful than I could have imagined initially. So I'm going to play a short clip from one of the sketches that we created together.
Why do you do it? I dance because it feels like my responsibility, my calling. Doesn't make any difference in the world.
Okay, I'm gonna pause that there. This is all on this website, which is linked on my website. But what I loved about where we ended up with this project is we were just using one single point from POSENET on the hand of his name is Vincent, the dancer, and he was speaking words aloud, and we were using the web speech API to live transcribe what he was saying, so he could have said whatever he wanted in that moment. And then he was able to manipulate the words that he had said with his movement and create this, like first on the left, then on the right, then on the left again, that create this manifesto of his thoughts about being a dancer. And it was really meaningful to be able to work on a project where I felt like I was creating a tool that could augment the dancer's movement, but not hide it in any way. And so this project, I think I reflect on a lot because for me, it was really important to realize that I never want the technology to be the sole focus of the work that I'm making, even though I'm an artist whose primary medium is software. I really want to let the concept and what I'm trying to say be at the forefront and the technology play more of a supporting role. Cool. Oh yeah, and then here's clip. And so following this, going back to the early experiments that I did when I had recently discovered that I could use processing with dance and my own movement, I then became really interested in thinking about how can I use these tools that I have to not just create something in digital space, but then bring something out into physical space. And so I was really interested in risograph prints at the time, and I wanted to create a system that would allow me to perform my own movement and then risoprint the resulting image. So I built this program. This was built with P5 that layers the movement I'm doing and then renders it on a single image. And then the way that the risograph prints is one color at a time. So I wanted the program to reflect that printing style. So I'll play you how it works. And then that's the print. So this was exciting for me because it was a moment where I was able to bring something that I'd worked on digitally and actually have prints. And I made this for one of the Processing Foundation's annual fundraisers, and it was really great to be able to have it sent to people who donated to processing. And then following that lineage of work, a more recent piece I created is called Can I Go Where You Go? And I made this as part of this exhibition called Social Codes that was curated by Casey Reese. And the piece is called Can I Go Where You Go? And anyone can view it in the browser, but I'll show you how it works here. So this is what you see while it's loading, and I haven't touched my mouse, but once I start moving my mouse, so to explain what's happening, the little body you see moving is actually acting as my cursor. So if I move my mouse around the screen, I can decide how I want the image to look, while also performing the piece at the same time as me in the video. And then what you're seeing in the bottom right is the computer vision analysis that I'm doing programmatically of the video to get that contour of my image. And then that is then placed on wherever the person's cursor is who's viewing the image in their browser, and then drawn again and again in these colors. So this piece was really fun because it was, as you saw in the previous pieces that I'd done in a style similar to this time I was allowing the viewer of the work to be able to actually co-create the piece with me. And that was an exciting development for me. And so a lot of my practice before the past couple of years has really been focused on thinking about performance and movement in a more literal way. But more recently, I've been expanding to think about performance on the internet in more of a conceptual way. And I've thought a lot about this book by Irving Goffman, who's a sociologist, called The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. And it was published in 1956, so way before the internet was as we know it. And this quote says, "The self, then, as a performed character, is a dramatic effect arising diffusely from a scene that is presented." And so what he's saying in this book and in his theory is that really the self is this kind of ever-changing amorphous thing, and there's no necessarily fixed identity that you have. It changes all the time based on who you're with and where you are, and it changes based on context. And that's become really interesting to me, thinking about performance, which has been a huge part of my background, but now thinking about how we translate that to the internet and especially on social media. And so recently over the summer, I had the chance to be on the Instagram, which was very meta for me. But in the quote that I wanted to have them attached, I say, on Instagram, everyone's performing with their personal profile. That's not to say what happens here isn't meaningful or powerful or real, but I mean that we're always posting with an audience in mind. I make artwork about that experience of performing myself on the internet because it's always felt both beautiful and absurd. I dream that people find my work and use it as a tool to contemplate their own relationship to the way they present themselves online. And so all of my background in dance and thinking about the body on the internet has really translated into this ongoing study of the presentation of self online. And this is the show poster that I had for a recent exhibition that was both in LA for my MFA program at UCLA, and then also in Tokyo over the summer. And I'm really interested in thinking back to the types of media that I used to consume that created this sort of cyclical relationship between my identity and what I was reading at first in something like 17 magazine, and then later things on Tumblr or Instagram that constantly are affecting my sense of self. And here's an image from the show. And I won't go too deep into this, but some of my more recent exploration of body on the internet has been like in this installation, which is called Love/Hate. And I have a video piece on the phone that's in the front of this punching bag here. And it's a video of many different kind of chaotic TikToks of me dancing around my studio. But I've always described my relationship with the internet as one of love/hate. And there are moments that I feel like, oh, I just want to leave social media forever, not be on it at all. And there's many moments where I love being online and I love being able to share, especially share my work and share thoughts and ideas via social media. But for me, it's been all about that tension between those two things. And it's really interesting for me to see how I've gone from thinking about performance in a more literal dance and code context to now experimenting with performance in these types of physical installations as well. Cool. And I'll just share a couple more projects that are more recent. So this piece is called Glance Back, and it's a Chrome extension that once a day at random takes a photo of you and asks you what you're thinking about. And then you start to have this collection of many photos of you just staring at your computer with no expression on your face. And so here's some of mine. I have almost 1,000 photos now since I've been using it since 2019. And it's been really special to see that not only I'm using it, but also lots of other people will share online. I can't see anyone's photos, but lots of people will share the photos that they've had taken by Glance Back. And that's been really cool. And it feels like this distributed performance that people are enacting every day with their computer. And then my most recent project extends even further to think about performance without the body necessarily, but thinking about how we perform ideology online. And so this piece is called Fake It Till You Make It and released very recently, but it's scrutinizing wellness and confidence, self-care culture within these types of Instagram graphics. And it's a generative system that I programmed to produce these graphics using like a randomized seed. So it often produces stuff that this is live generating, but it produces things that sound sometimes totally normal and sometimes totally absurd. And I released the project recently on this platform called Art Blocks. But it's been really fun seeing how these graphics can circulate and be their sort of own objects of performance on Instagram where they're intended to live. Okay, so I wanted to share all of those things to really encapsulate the journey that I've had thinking about performance and digital tools separately, even from a young age, to moving through learning about computer science and combining that with my dance background, all the way to now where I'm thinking about the self and the body on the internet and through more of as a social construct and thinking about how we perform our identity online all the time. But thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to stop screen sharing. So this is my website and Instagram, so I can see you all.
Whoa, thanks.
Okay, that's so weird. Yeah, I can't see anybody during it, but
yeah, definitely. And now everybody's throwing confetti. It was great. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
So I suppose there would be some either questions or ideas to share, or any sort of interaction is welcome. So I see Yasmin would like to say something, right, Yasmin?
Yeah. Hey again. Yeah. Thanks, Maya, for that. I remember I first encountered your work with the Bill T. Jones choreography
Cool.
piece, and yeah, I remember I was really intrigued by it because with the video that was made, I remember he did say in the beginning, like, what is this doing? What is the purpose? Like, it's not adding to my dancing. And I think that was really like it was really important, like you said, to reflect on how can you combine these elements in a way that doesn't detract from the actual choreography that's happening. And I guess this is kind of just something that popped into my head, but I was wondering, what kind of thoughts have you had about sort of acting with your body in sort of the VR, or especially in these kind of metaverse like world that is starting to happen. I was wondering what your thoughts have been on that, and like your opinion on like VR and living in the VR world in general. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Um, hmm. Big question. I guess
I know.
to start, I think the concept of the metaverse is really it's still very ambiguous in the way that I feel people are talking about it, especially like big tech companies are talking about it. I believe we're already in many ways living like social media already is a metaverse in a sense that um I believe everyone's performing online, and everything you put online is kind of contributing to this like distributed avatar that is all of your photos on Instagram, or a tweet, or like anything you put online is contributing to this like online concept of who you want to perform as to represent yourself. And so in terms of the metaverse, I think like an idea of something more literal, like in a 3D world where you have an avatar body and that kind of thing, just takes it even one step further. But it's conceptually still something I feel is not that far from what we're already doing. And then in terms of VR, I personally, I still feel a little skeptical of VR because I find that the headset, the hardware kind of clunky still
Mhm.
for me personally to use. So I don't spend a lot of time in VR. But I mean, all the time I think about when I'm on my computer, like sitting now on my laptop doing whatever, I forget I have a body all the time. Like I'm just so like hypnotized by whatever I'm doing on my screen. Um, and so yeah, I think the idea of being in VR takes that a step further for me. But yeah, um, I don't know. I don't know if it will become so as prevalent.
Yeah, I agree with you that the hardware is quite isolating. Like,
Yeah,
even though you might be connected to other avatars online in the physical space, like nobody else can experience what you're experiencing. So I
totally.
don't know. I feel like, I don't know, I'm more into maybe the possibility of like extended reality, where you're kind of able to still experience the space around you, but there might be like kind of added elements, like with
Yeah,
augmented reality.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend showed me recently something we were like both in VR headsets and drawing together, and it was really cool.
I want to do
And we
that
could kind of
so
see
bad.
each other. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was cool.
Cool.
Okay, I have a question, but it'll be a bit delayed because I also have to manage the recording. Thanks, Maya, for this really beautiful set of projects that you showcase, and I think it's really reflects your sort of growing practice, which I think is something that Playground really looks forward to. Uh, oh yeah, see, Yasmin telling me to ask questions in the chat. I just wanted to. There was something very like you have a very personal connection with this, with the eye of the camera, with the computer. I just wanted to sort of, and you like you're, as I mean, as we've also like called it, navigating self and body. I just wanted to get a sense from you, like in this very uh, kind of like intersectional, interspecies kind of way, what that relationship you feel is with the camera, or the, like, I mean, computer vision is basically the eye of the computer. So in a
Hmm.
sense, could you like talk a little bit about that, and how you kind of, what is evolving in that sense for you when you're looking at body and you're looking at your work?
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot about I feel like my whole life I've been practicing to try to see myself from a third party point of view. And a lot of people like um in this book Ways of Seeing, the author John Berger talks a lot about especially the way like women are represented in artwork, or the kind of way that like non-men are socially conditioned to learn to imagine how they appear to someone who is not themselves all the time. That almost feels so natural to me because I've been doing it for so long that the computer camera or the phone camera feels like an extension of that. But what I like is that I'm able to, like with a lot of projects I've done, I'm able to sort of interfere with it and manipulate the image that I'm putting out there of myself. And so I think that's why I'm so drawn to it, because in many ways, like seeing myself represented from this other like perspective, which is the computer camera, is very natural. But I like that am able to have this element of control in how I'm presenting through that. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Great. We have a comment from Anna. I can read. Thank you. I loved every part of this talk. If you want to share, I'm curious where you go for inspiration. What sources inspire you?
I mean, well, yeah, the tool I use the most to organize like concepts or inspiration for projects is Arena. And I'll put that in the chat. So I tend to always organize I have like my own profile and I organize all my thoughts and ideas for projects on there. Place, I mean, I make a lot of work about the internet and internet culture and time online. So honestly, I spending time on social media and scrolling and whatever, even though I do way too much of it, usually like I often source inspiration from like cultural phenomenons I see online. So that's big for me. And then also just following and talking to other artists who I love, who are interested in similar things, and learning about the history of learning about art history, especially media art history, and what artists were thinking about before me too. Yeah.
Great. Play, you're already spotlighted, so you can ask if you want, or I can read.
Oh shit, yeah. I didn't know how to raise my hand. Speaking about the folks who you're inspired by on socials, who are the people that you're like super jazzed about right now, whether it's in your lane or elsewhere?
Yeah. One of my favorite artists is Molly Soda, and she's been making work for years about like the performance of femininity on the internet. And she works a lot online and has made, especially on YouTube, she's been making videos for a long time. Um, so she's one of my favorite artists. Also, Lauren Lee McCarthy, who does a lot of experimentation and play. She's the founder of P5JS, but her work thinks a lot about performance and kind of social norms that we have online. So yeah, those are two of my like all-time favorites.
Can I just have a quick follow-up question, moderators?
Yeah.
Thank you. It sounds like you're thinking a lot about reclaiming your image online, or you know, exerting like agency over that image that's shared of you, which is in line with another program stream that we have, data activism, and how you can, you know, the program stream hasn't started, but the questions that we're exploring are, what are everyday playful things that you can do to mess with the data surveillance around us, right? Or reclaim some of that agency back. Have you ever thought about your work as activist work? You talked a lot about how the computer or I sees feminine bodies. How have you thought about your work in that in that framework, in that landscape? I'm so sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I personally would not categorize my work as activist work, because there are a lot of people who I think are proactively doing activist work, and I wouldn't necessarily call what I'm categorize my work that way. But I've sometimes say that for me, making artwork feels like a hack to get people to talk about what I want to talk about. Um, and so I'm very concept driven. I'm not really a super, I mean, I care about like the visuals and aesthetics of my work, but I'm not really driven by that in the work that I'm creating. It's very much concept driven. And so um, for me, it's been really important to be able to share my work not only in a more traditional art context, like in a gallery show or whatever, but also put the work online, because it's important for me that I'm reaching an audience who I feel like is affected by the ideas that I'm talking about, and then maybe like even having a conversation about the ideas that I'm talking about in an online context, where they can see it online and take it offline. So I really view my work, or ideally my work, is starting a conversation for people and really increasing literacy around the way that we think about um, putting our own image online. Uh,
Thanks. I'm silently dancing, but I realize that's like an empty room that you've just spoken into. So I'm
I
giving
love
you
it.
the feedback.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one actually. I was thinking, since seeing the "Fake It Till You Make It" project, like I really fell in love with this project, honestly. Like all those
Thank you.
inspirational quotes, like be thankful, connect, like about wellness, confidence, and stuff that we keep
Mhm.
exposed on social media by people, like also like that, also the capital, like super capitalist side of it, by influencers having the best life, never caring about money, and then trying to influence you in a good way so you can, self care and stuff. Yeah, I was just thinking, seeing the Instagram page, like, are there actually people who are thinking this is a real influencing page and follow it that way? Like,
Yeah, I mean, Maya kind of, I don't know what people think. I only really just started publicizing it. The project launched last week, actually, like a week ago. And so I only just started really publicizing the page. And I used to say it was a generative project in the bio, which I've removed because I do have an interest in how these generated graphics would circulate online. But I don't know what people think. I think sometimes it walks this line between sometimes sounding totally normal and then sometimes sounding really absurd. But so absurd to the point that I'd be surprised if someone wasn't suspicious of it. But also I've seen some actual existing Instagram graphics that definitely sound somewhat absurd to me. So I don't know.
I really wonder, like, if there would be a way to trace these, like, if other inspirational Instagram pages would actually start stealing some of the images from here, because I'm also seeing
Yeah.
any tags or something, and like,
Yeah, I mean, I would love
like,
that. One of my favorite parts of the project was seeing people use these as almost like memes in conversation. Like in a Discord chat, someone would like say something and then someone would respond with just like the image from the piece. So yeah, it's been really amazing to see how something like this is used not only as like not only the artwork itself, but also how it has this life in on the internet in conversation or on social media. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to keep posting them on the account and then see where it goes, or if like people who don't know me or the project follow it and are curious about it.
yeah, great. Any other questions I would like to ask, or comments, something to share, insights? Someone wants to sing, sorry. That's also welcomed. I saw, actually, Ambika was trying to say something. Or is it?
I was going to ask if Ambika, if Computational Baby had any feedback for Maya and the talk.
You can.
Yeah, he was. I think you guys saw he was dancing busily with Maya's slides. So yeah, he's very excited about his newfound music improvisational uh, tools that he's just recently learned and dance. Yeah, but it's interesting. I'm just like now kind of excited to see where Maya's work will go, because it's like there are so many layers with just aside from the movement, where also especially glance back has been a project that I've always really enjoyed looking at the updates of. And it really speaks to, especially if you're a creative technologist working with computer vision, it really speaks to you, because when you're coding, you're not dancing, you're just like this much, as much as you can see yourself. And that's the real, like, that's what I really love about Maya's work, that because she herself is a performer, when it comes to testing the project out, it's really much more beautiful than like a two left feet person like myself. So it's very nice to kind of like see that. uh, I don't, dichotomy is the wrong one. Ploy, you can give me a better word because you're like the word whiz, but but just to see that kind of difference in that state of body coding, while state of body while trying the piece out, for her as an artist. I don't know.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful
That
words,
means a lot.
Ambika.
Yes. So I would like to ask one maybe last time if anyone wants to ask any other question, insights, or basically just turn the microphones on, cameras on, and just yeah, say hi to each other, and then we can close after that.
Something off the top of my head, thinking again about the guide that will come out. You mentioned that when you were in school, there wasn't any like generative coding classes, sorry, generative design classes, or like code-based art stuff. If there's anyone who's teaching it well, would love to hear it either now or later, because I'm curious how the education of this stuff gets embedded not only in like formal institutions, but also like across YouTube.
Yeah, I mean the coding train, I definitely think has been so, yeah, big for the community.
Okay, then I guess we can slowly wrap up. I also don't know how, but I noticed I have a drum that I'm playing. If other people also notice, I don't know how I did that. That wasn't on purpose. Together. Yes, sure. Thank you, Maya, for the great talk, and thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much for having me.
Yes.
It's really